Now for today's rider tip, we've got one for the kids. Now it's called figure eights. And basically it's just doing turns in both directions. And it's great to get you nice and comfortable with your clutch control, rear brake, and obviously turning in both directions. The first thing you need to do is you need to find yourself a nice flat piece of ground with no ruts, no bumps. Something nice and easy will be perfect. Next up, you've got to get yourself a couple of track markers. It can be anything from witches' hats to bollards to tyres. Today we're using one bollard and one bobcat tyre will do just fine. Now we want to try to have the gap between the two markers approximately 10 to 15 metres. This allows you to get out of first gear, up into second gear, and do the corner pretty much like you would on the racetrack. It makes it flow a lot better. Now from a beginner's point of view, the main thing that this drill is good for is getting riders used to going from one direction and switching over to the other direction. Now it's so important when you first start riding to get comfortable turning both directions because everybody, myself included, we all have a direction that we prefer and that feels more natural to us. So doing this little drill gets you comfortable doing both directions. And one of the main things that I come across when I first introduce riders to this drill is riders tend to come up very close to the inside of the track marker for the first corner. By the time they exit, they drift way too wide. Now this comes natural to all riders. The main thing that's not good about doing it this way is it doesn't set you up for the next corner. You almost have to do a complete U-turn back on yourself to be able to make the second turn work. So you have to think ahead and set it up in the first corner. Now, to do it the correct way, the two main things you need to do, first of all, is set up the first part of the corner. Don't come in so tight right next to the track marker. Start out a little bit wider, which will make your exit a lot easier. The second part is you need to make sure you turn reasonably tight, always thinking ahead and remembering about the next turn you have to make. Now when it flows correctly, the way it's supposed to work, it'll feel nice and smooth, kind of like when you're on a roller coaster ride, up and down, no problem at all. Not like a Dodgem car. It's not supposed to be turn, skid, point, go in the next direction. It's supposed to flow nicely and you'll know when it starts to feel comfortable. Now the next stage of the drill is a little bit more technical and yes, a little bit more advanced. But this is where the real fun starts. This is where we start to incorporate the back brake, and by pulling in the clutch and locking up the back brake at the right time, you can get some wicked slides coming into the corner. Feels a little bit weird at first and you need to make sure you don't end up doing a 360 and landing on your butt on the ground. Once again, practice makes perfect. Keep working through until you get it right. Now the main benefits that we get from the back brake slide coming into a corner, typical of super motard style, anyone that's seen them, they come hooking into the corners, drift with the back end coming into the corner. It helps with your braking, but it also helps get a little bit of your turn done for you. If you can, by using your back brake to lock it up and slide into the corner, if you can get 20 or 30% of your turn already done while you're braking, it means you've got 20 or 30% less of the turn to do as you exit the corner. Flows a lot better and it's a lot faster. Now one of the toughest parts about getting into locking up the back brake coming into these turns is learning when's the right time to lock up that back brake and also how fast are we supposed to go into these turns. If you come in too fast, lock up that back brake, pitch it out and do a nice slide, it ends up going way too far, you dab your foot on the ground, almost have a crash, and it ends up being slower than if you didn't slide in the first place. Likewise, if you come in a little bit too slow, lock up that back brake, it only steps out just a tiny little bit and you end up coming into the corner thinking to yourself, I wish I had to come in just that little bit faster. Doesn't matter how good you are, it's going to seem a little bit like I mentioned before, like a Dodgem car. It's going to slide, the back end will grip, it'll almost stop and try to spit you over the top, and then you'll be on the clutch trying to exit reasonably fast out of the corner. But with a bit of practice and starting to feel more and more comfortable, we can try to get rid of that Dodgem car feel. The way that we do that is by sliding while the back end's still sliding from your back brake into the corner. We try to feed on a little bit of power and release the clutch. And what that does is it keeps the slide going through the mid part and a little bit through the exit of the corner, and it runs nice and smooth without that jagged feel. And we want to keep trying to practice this until it's nice and smooth, but it is important that you remember, if you hadn't already figured out for yourself, that right-handed turns are going to be a lot more difficult for you than your left-handed turns. The main reason being the back brake. When we do left-handed turns, nice and easy, you can have your left leg out supporting you just in case something goes wrong and easily dab that back brake with your right foot. However, when we have to do right-handed turns, it's not so easy. Your right foot has to dab the brake, meaning that you've got no right foot out just in case something goes wrong in the corner. Therefore, your balance has to be spot on with your right-handers to make this work. Once again, practice makes perfect. A little bit at a time, take it easy, don't go pitching it into those right-handers too fast to start with. This particular drill makes sure that you have to stay nice and smooth. If you're a type of rider that likes to ride on the ragged edge and you try to do that with this drill here, it'll punish you and you won't be able to stay fast and you certainly won't be able to stay smooth. Good luck, make sure you practice. We'll see you next time.